Okay, so SLK55 113 motor. First thing, go ahead and remove your under panels. There's 3 of them. Just take all of them off because you will need access to the front crank bolt, because you're gonna have to rotate the motor to get those bolts out of the way. First things first, remove your O2 bracket with all the little miscellaneous bolts. Get that bracket out of the way, take a bungee and just move everything forward. Remove your both transmission lines and cap them off so they don't leak. It's gonna be one on this side, one on this side. They're all E10s Torx. There's gonna be a bunch of little holders there. There's gonna be one supporting here. There's gonna be one right there. So remove all of them and just get your transmission lines out of the way. Move this one to the side and this one just hold with the bungee as far back that way as possible. Get a piece of cardboard. You're gonna label everything that you take off. So you're gonna take the O2 bracket bolts and then the trans bolts. There's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with the bracket itself and 2 holders. So just make sure you label everything. So at this point, what you're going to want to do is lower the catalytic converters. They want you to remove the whole exhaust system, but I don't really like to do that. So what you do is, there's 2 bolts there and there that connect the exhaust manifold on each side. And then you remove those bolts first, soak them in penetrating fluid, and then remove your oxygen sensors, 2 here, 2 on this side. Now, the top one, as you can see up there, that's going to be connected with a zip tie up top. So go ahead up top and cut the zip tie. You can access it through the top. What you're going to want to do is put the car in neutral and disconnect that negative battery terminal. 2 bolts here, 2 bolts there, and 2 bolts here, and 4 bolts here that hold these brackets. What you're gonna wanna do is loosen these. You don't have to take them off completely because you just need enough articulation to move the exhaust apart. See now all the space we got, plenty of space to drop the transmission, unlike before where it was very, very cramped. At this point, we can start removing the torque converter bolts. We're gonna have to rotate the engine. I believe there's 8 bolts total. You go in through here and you rotate the motor from the front over here. Your crank bolt is right here. So you don't have to remove the center support, but I do, just to have enough articulation to remove the drive shaft. And what you do is you tap on the drive shaft to get it loose from those pins, because a lot of times the pins are holding it in place so tight that it won't release. So just make sure to tap on the drive shaft on the edges, and it'll use a pry bar and it'll come right off for you. I wanted to show you guys, so basically what I did was I removed the heat shield, loosen these 2 bolts, and then remove the drive shaft and just tap on these little bushings a little bit with a pry bar and then pry it away. And then for that top bolt, what I do is I go through the top. As you can see that this right here, I go through the top to loosen that top bolt because it's difficult to get to. This is for the passenger side. Now for the driver's side, I use a long extension like this on a swivel with a swivel. So 2 swivels on that one to get to this bolt, which is on this side over here. Right, so it's the one that's up above, way up above. And you go in through here with the long extension above the transmission and over there. So you see going through the top here, and then the bolt is right there. It's so super easy to get to, right? You see right there? Easy. This is only for the passenger side. Next, what you're going to want to do is remove your connector. As you can see, this one's leaking. The seal inside, there's a seal in there that leaks. So we're going to have to recommend that. And then this is the connector. You just push here and pull, and you can actually remove this whole bracket like this and set it off to the side. I did remove that exhaust system just to make it a little bit easier to access the bolts. All the bolts are out right now. There's a bracket here, right here, you see. Just put it off to the side. There's nuts on the back here on these two, and then the starter bolts are longer. The two starter bolts are a little bit longer, but the way that I could get them out was with this kind of setup on an air tool. So we got one more step here before we can drop this. I keep one bolt in there all the time just in case. And then you remove these 6 here, these 6 here, and the ground cable. Everything else can stay the way it is. Okay, so the transmission is out. What I do is I just take a strap and strap down the transmission so that it stays on there, and then I put a pad on the bottom to make sure not to damage or scratch the oil pan. Here's that connector that I want to replace because it's leaking right there. And then here's that mark, by the way, that I made. I like to line everything up the way I took it apart. Here's all the oil from the rear main seal leak. And this plate comes off together with the transmission bushing. And here's your negative ground. This stays on there. You don't have to remove it. Here's your shifter. It's currently in neutral. Going over here, you're gonna want to mark the flywheel so that you take it off in the same way. These get replaced. These 8 bolts, you have to replace them. And mark this flywheel something like maybe here. I'll mark it so that I know all that oil. So that I know how it came off, and I'll show you from there. Also, just wanted to point out that the valve covers, as you can see, are seeping oil. It's not horrible, but clearly on the passenger side, you see a slight leak, and on the driver's side, it's nice. There's no problems. So, other than that, I don't see any other oil leaks up there. There's a slight seepage here. Right there. But everything else looks not bad. So after you remove the bolts from that cover plate right there. So after you remove the bolts from the cover plate, which are these right there, those are the flywheel bolts, you're gonna want to heat by the way, there's 2 long ones that go in here, and the rest of them are the same. But you're gonna want to take a heat gun and heat the seal area because otherwise you won't be able to pry it off. I'll show you in a second. At this point, what you're going to want to do is clean off all the old gasket material, but make sure that it does not go in the sump. So be very careful when you're taking all this off with a razor blade, to be careful that it comes out of the car, not inside, because you can clog the pickup. And then you got to catch it with the other hand, so I'm going to put the camera down. So at this point, I ended up cleaning the plate and on the bottom as well. What you do is you take 800 grit sandpaper and then 1000 grit and go over the whole surfaces, first with a razor blade and then with sandpaper, to make sure that the new surface is perfect for the new plate. So this is literally all you need. It goes alongside the bottom like this, and then this is how you put the sealant on. This is a little bit more than what I would usually like, but I'm gonna roll with it for now. This plate goes on first. There's two little pins right there and there, which I will line up with. So this plate is in. These all get torqued down to 8 Newton meters for the bottom ones as well. What I do is I mark them in green after they've been torqued to spec. As you can see, a little bit will seep out, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Next, we're going to put the seal in with the special tool. So the way this works is, first you install the sealing ring itself. I use a plastic piece to center it. So you're gonna use this piece right here to center it on there. Take this off, then put your tool on. There's a little mark there it goes over. 2 bolts to hold it in place, nice and tight. And then what you do is you take this piece here, okay? This piece goes on to the top. So then what you do is you put this top plate on, and then you take a 24 millimeter and slowly start moving the seal in. Make sure that from all sides it's going in nice and easy and it's not lopsided in any way. And then this seal also was in the freezer for about 2 hours because rubber contracts and it makes it easier to go in. But make sure that you do not put any kind of sealant or any kind of lubrication on the actual seal itself. So our seal is in, and you want it to be just a little bit below the this lip surface, not flush, but just maybe 0.5 millimeter under this sealing surface. And that's it, guys. Now, so we can do the reassembly. I'm gonna just not document everything just to make the video shorter, but I'll try to get the torque specs for you for everything important, like the flywheel, the bell housing, and drive shaft. But yeah, pretty much at this point it's just reassembly. Okay, so what you do is you ask somebody to counter hold there at the crank. These are going to be 45 Newton meters. You do in a star-shaped pattern to make sure this goes on nice and flat. So it's going to be 45 initially, and then you're going to go around and do 90 degree. So 45 plus 90 degrees on these bolts here. Okay guys, so the job is complete. Exhaust is in. I used a few zip ties to make sure everything is where it should be. The rear bracket was broken, that one, so I drilled through the old bolt and I put a new bolt in there. What else? Everything that's green has been torqued to spec. I'll put the torque specs in the description or in the video. I'll try to put like screenshots in. The ground is tightened down. I also did a transmission service on this. I replaced the filter and the fluid. I'm not going to show that because that's a whole separate video that I already made. Transmission lines are connected and the connector is connected. It is leaking slightly, but they declined to replace the valve body. It's above the valve body. It's called a conductor plate that comes with the whole assembly, so they don't want to do that. What else? The bolts for the exhaust are in, 2 here and 2 there. That's pretty much it. Definitely plan for like, I would say 2 days for this. 1 day for disassembly, and you can put the cover on and make sure the sealant dries, and then the second day for reassembly. So that's it. As you can see, car's been running for about 20 minutes, so no leak.